Here's the gear that I am going to be using to accomplish this tattoo. So on the far left, we have a wormhole silicone hand. I did use Spirit stencil paper to apply this design. It was printed through the MHTP 8008 thermal printer. And I do have dynamic black that I'm going to be using for the lining and for the shading. I also have the small assortment of needles, the Rain 005 round liner. I do also have a standard 11 round shader and a standard 11 round liner. I also have the Frequency Master OG Produce tattoo machine over here on the right. I will also be using simple petroleum jelly, phantom tattooing gloves, and blue Scotch shop wipes to keep my silicone hand clean and to protect my hand. So here we are about to begin the technical process here. So I'm going to grab the 11 round shader. So you can see here is the V-Select standard 11 round shader. This is what I'm going to start with. First thing is I'm going to set my needle depth and I'm going to adjust my voltage to my liking. I'm probably going to run around 7 volts to line and then start from there. And in terms of my needle hang, I'm probably going to hang out my needle right around there. If I have any issues, I will go ahead and adjust along the way. Where I'm going to begin is I'm going to start from the area that's close to me. So I have these little leaves right here. I could typically freehand leaves 10 times out of 10, it's really no issue. So if I lose that part of the stencil, I'm not too worried. What I want to do is I'm going to begin with applying the petals here, and I'm going to build off of that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get some petroleum jelly, and I'm going to moisturize the area that I'm going to be tattooing. Now, if we pay attention, this right here, the palm right here, has a bunch of different curvatures and textures. So we're going to have to compensate for that somehow along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get some ink so I have adequate ink flow from A to B. I'm going to identify where I'm going to start, and then I'm going to identify where I'm going to end. You're going to notice that I'm going to be moving the hand around like this a lot to help compensate for the curvatures and textures here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this part of my hand right here. I'm going to use this part of my hand right here and give it that stretch. So you can see that's how I'm going to go about stretching the hand right here. And then from here, I'm going to start from point A, which is going to be right here. Point B is going to be over here, but if I have to taper out right here, that's going to be fine too. So I'm going to go ahead and point A, point B, make sure that my posture is comfortable, my position is comfortable, make sure that the camera is focused here. And then from here, I'm going to taper in. I want to make sure that I'm at the correct angle as well because I want all 11 needles hitting at the same time. When it comes to the palm of a hand, this skin is tremendously more thicker and a bit more difficult to saturate than, let's say, for example, a forearm design or a forearm tattoo. So therefore, we're going to have to also compensate for that. How I compensate when tattooing, thicker skin here is I'm going to slow my machine down. I don't press harder. I don't pick up my voltage or anything like that. What I do is I simply slow down, as you can see, and I give the needle enough time to saturate before I move on. And that's going to be the entire approach that I'm going to use every step of the way. And then I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to approach the same way over here. I'm going back for some more ink to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. And then from here, I'm going to wipe away to see the line. And I got it saturated right there on the first try. So I feel like the more comfortable you are, the better that your line and work is going to be. So I'm going to prioritize my comfort each and every step of the way, all the way through the design here. I'm going to taper into the existing line, let the needle catch before I commit to the line, make sure that my angle is correct, make sure that my hand speed is matching my voltage. I also have to remember to compensate for the thicker skin by slowing down. I understand that this is a silicone hand. However, I could still kind of imagine how the palm of the hand and the bottom of the feet may be. And I'm kind of using that to help guide me. I'm going to go ahead and put some ointment here, wipe away to see the results and what I am working with. So far, so clean. You can see that the line weight is true all the way through. That's another important variable. We want that line weight to be true all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and proceed. All of the leaves, I think I may end up doing those with the 11 round liner just to create a little bit of variation. I'm going to go back for some more ink here. And then I'm going to navigate from point A and then make my way to point B. If I have to taper out again, I'm gonna do so. So I'm gonna position myself, make sure that I'm comfortable. You can see that I'm stretching the skin. And then from here, I'm gonna commit, make sure that my angle is correct, make sure that my hand speed matches my voltage, make sure to compensate for the thicker skin by slowing down just a tad bit to let the needles make the rounds that it needs to make. I'm gonna taper out right there. That looks clean and saturated as well. I'm gonna come back in from up here to connect the line. It's going to be the same thing each and every step of the way, so you're probably going to hear me say a lot of the same thing over and over. Allow me to go get back or get some more ink here. So I identified my point A, and then I'm making my way to point B, prioritizing my comfort and my posture. I'm going to dab away like so. And I'm going to continue on the next petals. I'm going to put some petroleum jelly here so that way I could wipe away and see if there's any areas that I need to touch up before I move on. So far, so clean. I went back for more ink to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. I'm going to position myself, make sure that I'm comfortable before I continue. And I'm going to taper in right here. I'm going to bring this around over here. It looks as though I ran out of ink right there, so I'm going to go back for a little bit more. I'm going to taper in right here. Like so. I'm going to go ahead and dab on the line to see if there's any mistakes that I made or anything that I need to fix. So that's looking great as well. Each and every time I'm done with the line, I'm always going to go back for more ink. And you're also going to notice how before I commit to the line, I taper into the existing line. I'm going to bring this around this way, making sure that my posture and comfortability is comfortable, as well as my needle angle matching my hand speed to my voltage, just like that. And I'm going to continue on to this area right here. So the next area I'm going to navigate to, as I mentioned, is going to be the bottom of this petal right here. I'm going to make sure that I have ointment on the area that I'm going to be tattooing. Make sure that I get a good stretch on the skin, posture, comfortability. I'm going to go ahead and taper in right here. Focusing on my angle, making sure that's correct, as well as my introduction to the skin. I always want those tapers. And then I'm going to taper out right around here because it's a little uncomfortable for me to continue, but I'm still getting nice, clean, saturated results. And more importantly, the line weight is consistent to the line weight that I'm using. If you're not happy with like a section, the line weight in a specific area, feel free to go back over it. So that way you can kind of see what it takes to create one pass lines. And then the next part is going to be over here. We're going to approach it the same way. I'm going to make sure that I have my A point identified, make my way to the B point, prioritize my posture and my comfortability, as well as my needle angle. And taper into that existing line right there. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away and see where we are at. So far, so great. Now, at the beginning right here, there was a little hiccup right here. I was kind of looking away when I was creating this line. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go back over it real quick and then continue on. The next part of the line is going to be over here. So I'm going to navigate from right here. This is going to be my A point, and it also gives me an opportunity to clean this area up a little bit. I'm going to go back for some more ink. So then from here, I'm going to navigate to my point A, make sure I'm at the right posture and comfortability, as well as the correct needle angle, making sure that my hand speed is matching my voltage for this specific tattoo. And I'm going to bring it around all the way until I've reached point B, which is right here. And then what I'm going to do is wipe away, like so. And then we're just going to continue. We're going to keep it going with these other two, and then we can do the middle of the flower right there. Still running at 7 volts even. I haven't really felt the need to higher up the voltage. I wouldn't see why I would need to. I just have to compensate and move my hand a little bit slower. So from here, I'm going to navigate over here. That's my point A. I'm moving slow enough to let the needle saturate the skin. And then I'm going to make my way to point B over here. Just like that. I'm going to wipe away, see if there's any line integrity issues or anything that I need to correct. And that's another clean line. I'm going to go back for some more ink, and I'm going to continue with this last petal, and then I can do this inner area right here. So you can see I'm always prioritizing my comfortability, making sure my angle is correct, as well as my posture. Make sure that I align my hand speed to my voltage. And I could really feel the needle working the palm there, and that's what I want. I want to make sure that it's making enough rounds to deposit the ink in a clean, saturated manner. There we go. Now I'm going to go off and do the middle right here. Now for this, I'm just going to kind of connect this top part right here. I'm going to bring it around this way. Kind of close it off already right here, and then I can continue adding these inner areas right here. I'm going to go ahead and dab away, put a little bit more ointment before I continue, and then I'm going to go back for some more ink. I'm going to focus on my posture, my comfortability, as well as my needle angle. I really can't say this enough. This is exactly what I am doing. That's what I'm doing to accomplish these results here. Making sure I got a good stretch on the skin as well. I'm going to continue right here now. So I'm going to taper into this existing line. Here's my A point. I'm going to bring it around to point B, like so. And then I'm going to continue. So I'm going back for more ink. I'm going to apply the remaining part of this design up here, tapering into this existing line, and then bringing it around this way. Same thing over here. Just like that. And then I'm going to work those inner areas as well. I have these inner areas right here to apply. As you can see, the stencil is a little lost, so I'm going to improvise just a little bit to complete this to the best of my ability. I'm going to start with this little inner area right here. And you're going to notice that every line I do is almost the same to the next in terms of needle angle and hand speed and voltage. It doesn't change. I don't randomly speed up my workflow because every single line needs to be applied like this. And then right here, like so. So that right there is the entire inner rows. I have a choice to make now. I can, excuse me, switch to the 11 round liner, or I can stick with this 11 round shader and simply apply these leaves as well. This is going to be 110% subjective to each their own. Now, I'm not sure if the 11 round liner is actually going to cover these thicker leaves, because these leaves line weight's a bit thicker than these. So I'm going to stick with the 11 round shader, and I'm going to apply these bigger leaves, and then we can go back and see if we want to use the 11 round liner to apply the smaller ones. So let's come back over here to these leaves right here, and then we're going to apply this area right here. With the same way, I'm going to get a little bit of ointment, make sure that the area I'm tattooing is moisturized, and then from here I'm going to navigate from point A and then make my way to point B. Like so. Let's go ahead and dab and see the line weight integrity. As you can see, the line weight is consistent. There are creases in the hand, so if the lines look like wobbly, it's actually the creases. I'll show you that here in a moment as well. I'm gonna go ahead and taper in over here and then connect this line to the existing line that we just did. Making sure that my hand speed and voltage stays the same, correct needle depth. All of that doesn't change. Every line we do is going to be the same. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of ranting and saying the same things over and over. I feel like it's kind of necessary in order to drill the process in and get the points across. I'm going to go ahead and do it from here now. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and continue with these leaves right here, and then we'll double back. The next part of this design that I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to these leaves up here at the top, and then I'll switch to the 11 round liner and do those smaller leaves. I think that that's gonna be a little bit interesting and probably benefit the design with that minor line weight fluctuation. That's how I'm going to approach that. I'm going back for more ink right now to make sure that I have adequate ink flow. And then from here, I'm gonna apply ointment to the areas that I'm going to be tattooing. Identify my point A and B before I commit, and then commit to the line. So I'm gonna identify, whoops. So I'm gonna identify my A point, which is right here. And then I'm gonna make my way on over to my B point. And my client got an accidental tattoo, so they're going home with 2 tattoos today. So from here, I'm gonna identify the A point, as I mentioned, and then make my way on over to the B point. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable and that my posture is aligned and my hand speed and voltage is aligned as well. I want to make sure that I'm also comfortable so that way I don't slip, as you saw me just do there. That's actually really bad. You don't want that to happen. It may happen. Hopefully there's a way that we can fix it. If not, then we just kind of have to take it as a loss there. And then from here, I'm going to navigate to this side and then do the same thing from A to B, and I'm going to commit to that. Slight taper in at the beginning here, and then I'm going to bring this around. I'm focusing on my angle as well as my hand speed to my voltage, because I want these leaves to come out as clean as I can get them and as consistent as I can get them. So you can see that these line weights are pretty darn close. I'm going to kind of go back a little bit this way here, and you can see some lines I double up. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. The second time when I went over it right now, I was doing it very, very lightly. I wasn't sticking to the same depth that I used to apply that leaf. I was a little lighter on the touch there. And then I'm gonna go to these last leaves right here before we switch on over out of this needle. I'm gonna approach these the same way because I just feel more comfortable bringing the needle towards me as opposed to pushing it away. So you can see my angle's correct. My hand speed and my voltage is aligned. That's why every line I'm creating, I'm getting clean saturated results. The angle contributes to the line weight, and my posture, my comfortability contributes to the cleanliness of the application. How clean my lines come out when I'm done. And then after that, I'm going to continue over here. I'm going to bring it around this way. like so. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away and then continue with that last line right here. Keep in mind, I'm moving this low to compensate for the tougher skin right here on the hand and the more textures. This is going to vary from artist to artist. If you're not familiar with like your needle depth and your technique, then it could be really easy to blow out the skin with the method that I'm showing you here. So I would encourage you to really fine tune and use the techniques that you are comfortable with. Take what you'd like from this video and kind of leave what you don't. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this area and the surrounding areas so that way I can see the read on the current progress here. So far that looks great. Everything is nice, clean, and solid and saturated. That's exactly how I want it to be. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the 11 round liner. So that's going to be the V-Select 11 round liner, and then I'm going to apply all of these little leaves right here on the outside. So let's get to that. I'm actually going to stay at the same voltage that I'm currently running. I don't really feel like I don't feel a great need to change it, so I'm going to stick with that there. Same thing with my needle hang. I'm going to stick to that as well. I'm going to go for some ink here, and then I'm going to continue applying these leaves. So I'm going to identify my first line, and then kind of make my way from A and then to B, like so. And I feel like that looks great in correspondence to the design here. Now, it looks a little, I guess, uneven, but that's actually the stencil coming through on the back end, and the lines are kind of blending in with it. If I continue and it kind of looks like that, I may just end up using the 11 round shader to line all of this to make it look cleaner. Because even though your lines are consistent, sometimes the stencil underneath doesn't come off and it's a little stubborn, and it'll distort the vision of your design. I can go ahead and show you close up everything here in a moment so that way you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And then right here. With the 11 round liner, since the configuration is more tighter together, I can move a little bit faster because this configuration penetrates the skin a little easier than the round shader. So that's the reason why I'm moving a bit faster with this needle versus the round shader. So you're going to see that I'm going to prioritize my comfort first before I commit to the line. I'm going to identify my point A, B, make sure I focus on my angle, and then commit. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. There we go. I'm going to continue with the remaining leaves there. I ended up liking the way that it looked. I feel like the different line weight fluctuation adds interest and the interest that I was looking for. So you can see point A and B right there. Same thing right here. My point A, navigate on over to point B. Same thing over here. Like so. I'm going to go back for some more ink and then do the same thing right here. Like so. And I'm going to continue one last time over here. There's about 4 different leaves over here. We're going to apply them the same way that we have been. Just to make sure that I'm on frame here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away there and then continue with these last ones. Now, if I'm uncomfortable with any of these positions, I have two options. I can move myself or my client. In this instance, I'm actually going to move myself and reposition myself so that way I can create these lines in a cleaner manner that's more comfortable for me. I want to bring the lines into myself, so I'm going to position myself in a manner that allows me to bring the lines into me. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing over here. The same thing over here. I'm going to go ahead and dab away. And that was the last of the 11 round liner leaf here. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the 5 round liner now, and we're going to add these little inner details before we move on. Moving on to the last needle here that I'm going to line with. This is going to be the Rain. I'm going to use a 005 round liner. I want a tighter point. I'm going to have to be really accurate with these deposits because any little wobble or mistake is going to show. Since this is a smaller needle, I'm going to take my voltage down to 6 volts even. And I'm just going to kind of adjust my hand speed to my voltage so that way I can get clean lines. I have my ink ready to go. I'm going to do this the exact same way that I have been, make sure that I am comfortable. I'm going to taper in here. And then make my way as cleanly as I can to my point B here. Like so. I'm going to repeat that with the other side. I'm going to go back and get a little bit more ink. Make sure that I'm on frame here. Taper in. And that's my B point right there. So I have the main lines. I'm going to add these other little detail lines so that way we can continue. So here's my A point. Making my way to my B point. I'm going to kind of continue up this way. There we go. And then I'm going to move on over to this area over here to apply those little detailed lines. You can see that with the 5 round liner, I do move faster even though my voltage is lower, but that's because it's really easy to penetrate the skin with these smaller needle configurations. There we go. And then I just need these little areas up here to finish the details, and then I can move on to the shading. So here's the same thing. I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to make sure that I'm comfortable before I commit. Make sure I'm doing this slowly so I don't give my client another party dot. I'm going to go ahead and taper in right here. There we go. There we go. And then I'm going to go back for some more ink and then repeat that on the other side over here. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable. If I have to reposition myself, I will, which I just did right here. Before I commit to my A and B points. Like so. There we go. So far this is looking fantastic. For it being on the palm of the hand, I think this is actually coming out really clean. I'm going to go ahead and kind of reposition here, and then I'm going to apply these other 2 detailed areas right here. And then I believe that'll be it for lining. Bring it around this way. Come up this way. Now it's very interesting because some lines I feel comfortable bringing them away from me, as you saw me doing there. Some I feel more comfortable bringing them towards me. I think that it really depends on the distance and the needle configuration and the angle. I think that's what really determines if I'm going to bring it towards me or away. I'm going to go ahead and position myself. Bring it around like so. There we go. There we go. So from here, I'm going to get a generous amount of petroleum jelly. I'm going to put it on this area that I'm tattooing. As you can see, that's quite a bit. And then I want to remove any of this excess here, the dots, the little splats and everything that came with this process. So that way I can get a good idea as to what I am working with, see the results. If there's any other areas I need to like patch up, I'm going to go ahead and do so. And it's actually looking really good. Everything is nice and clean. All the line weight integrities are reflecting exactly as they should. Let me go ahead and face it this way so that you can see. So this is what I have so far. From here, I'm going to go ahead and begin applying the shading. For the shading, I'm going to stick with the 5-round liner, and I'm going to approach it with a sort of like stipple approach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the process, but instead of line, I'm going to shade. So I'm going to identify where I want to shade, and then I'm going to use a series of whip motions to apply the shading. My voltage is still running at 6 volts. I'm going to stick with that voltage just so that way I could whip my hand a little bit faster here. So that's that first leaf that I'm shading right there, and I'm going to kind of continue with everything else. I want to add just a little bit of shading. I don't want to add too much. I don't want to take away from the existing design, and I don't want to leave it unshaded because I want to demonstrate shading here as well and how I would go about doing it. But you're going to see it's a lot like lining. The only thing that's changing is the actual technique that I'm using to shade. So with lining, you can see I was kind of drilling into the hand there. With shading, I'm actually just using the very tips of the needles to get a nice little gradient going. It's a massive difference on application here. In terms of positioning, it's still the same. I'm always identifying my point A to B. I'm always prioritizing my comfort. Go ahead and go back for some more ink here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do one more layer over this here. Now, shading on a palm is pretty ridiculous. No one really does that unless like you're like saturating. It's probably very, very rare that you're going to see shading on a palm. However, it's worth a shot. You know, you can try it and see how it goes, what type of results that you get. I just kind of wanted to point out how I'm going to go about shading the palm area here. I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to kind of continue with the surrounding areas. Shading for the petals is going to be pretty straightforward as well. I'm going to kind of navigate here. And I'm just going to use a series of whip motions out this way to create a nice little shade. I'm not sure if a lot of artists would actually shade on a palm. I think only maybe riskier artists may try it, or artists that are really seasoned may actually do it on a real palm. I'm not saying that it's impossible, definitely not. It can be done. It's just probably going to take a good while and maybe need some touch-ups. So from here, I'm going to keep on going this way. I'm going to go back for a little bit more ink because I want adequate ink flow. Keep in mind, this is a silicone hand. but the technical process that I'm showing you, like the exact same methods and technical approach that I'm using here, is the exact same technical approach that I would use if I were tattooing this on a real palm. So there we go. I have that shading right there. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe away, see if there's anything else that I need to kind of add to. I'm just gonna do a little bit of cross hatching right here. I want to stay at a consistent speed so that way all of my pixels come out really clean and smooth and neighboring one another well. So that's the first petal, and that looks great. I'm actually going to move on to the remaining petals in the surrounding areas. So let's navigate over here. I actually like the way that it looks better with the shading. I'm going to go ahead and plant my hand. Now, I am being a little bit more, I guess, aggressive with my approach here versus normal, like a softer area, like maybe a forearm or something like this. The approach is a little bit more aggressive just because the palm of the hand is really thick, and I can even feel it on this silicone hand. I can feel all the textures. I can kind of get an idea of how much thicker the palm of the hand is going to be just even using this silicone hand. Granted, it's not anything close to what a real palm would feel like, but I can get an idea of what the textures are going to feel like on a palm of a hand. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away. So you can see after a few passes I was able to get a clean shade there. Whether or not it's going to be like that on a real palm, it may. Results are going to vary from person to person. One person may have a softer palm versus another, so that's probably also something to be considered as well. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away and see what we have here. I'm just going to go over this one more time. There we go. Just wipe away and see the results. Okay, so far so great. I'm loving the results here. I'm going to kind of navigate over here, then add the shading to this part of the design right here. As you can see, I'm really stretching the hand here. So that way I can get past those hand textures here, or the hand creases, where the skin creases. It's a little bit difficult to see it straight, so if I stretch it enough, I'm able to see it a lot more clearly. There we go. Let's go ahead and wipe away, see what we're working with. That's fantastic as well. So I'm essentially going to go ahead and kind of repeat that with the remaining petals here. And then these inner areas, I'm just going to do a little bit of shading upwards like this. Not too heavy, not too light. Just a small amount of shading. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away now the inner area. I don't want to go too dark there because I don't want to lose, some depth there. I don't want it to look super flat either. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. And then I'm going to continue with these 4 petals out here on the outer edges. So right here, I'm going to kind of just whip away from me this way. And the same thing with over here. I'm trying to follow the motion of the petal as cleanly as I can, so that way it kind of looks more natural and flows with the design. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and dab away. And I think that I can probably use a little cross hatching here. Not necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cross hatching to kind of bring this out a little bit, as you see me here. There we go. Very clean, and I'm going to repeat that over here with the remaining petals. So from here, I'm going to navigate there. I'm just going to kind of go from left to right all the way, just kind of keep that consistent flow going there. I'm going back for some more ink, making sure that I have adequate ink flow before I even continue applying here. And then I'm going to start from right here, and then just use the same whip motions that I've been using in an upwards direction like this. I don't want to go all the way to the edge. I want to leave just a little negative space there on each side, as I have been doing with the other petals. And this kind of helps keep it from going too flat. I'm going to go back for some more ink here. There we go. And then I'm going to navigate right here. And then I'm going to continue on over to the right. I'm going to do about maybe one or two more passes just to darken the shading a little bit more. So I'm going to go with that right there, and I'm going to finish this last petal right here before I continue on. I'm going back for more ink, and then I'm going to apply the shading right here. I'm going to leave a little bit of skin tone showing on the edge, so that way it doesn't make it look too flat. I feel like it also adds a little bit of interest here. A little bit of cross hatching right here. I'll go ahead and do maybe one or two more passes here. There we go. Now I'm going to look at everything, and I'm going to see if there's any other areas that I want to go back and shade, or if I want to leave it like this. Right now would be a good time to kind of finalize any areas that you want to add some last minute shades to or anything like that. In that case, I'm just going to bring this up a little bit more. Cross hatch this way to smooth things out. Same thing with over here. Bring this out a little bit more. Just kind of darken it up as well. And one more over here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more to this top one up here as well. Just maybe one more pass going up this way to bring the shading out a little bit more. A little bit of cross hatching right here. allow me to add some ointment. I want to add a generous amount now, clean it up so I can see if there's any other shades that I want to add. If not, I can go ahead and move on to the remaining part of the leaves and call this tattoo complete. I feel like that looks fantastic. So I'm going to move on to the top part of the leaves now. I'm going to go ahead and apply ointment. Nothing really changes. You're going to notice that it stays the same throughout the entire process. Actually, I started to add shading to multiple leaves here. So I'm going to start right here. Like so. Same thing right here. Just a little bit, as I want to leave some of the skin around. I didn't do that with that first one, so it looks a little bit flat in my opinion in comparison to these other ones that I'm doing. But this is how we learn. Good thing this is on a silicone hand. And here's a good position here. If I can't really make this position, I'm going to ask the client to kind of turn in a manner that helps benefit my workflow, like this. And then I'm going to apply this little area so that way everything comes out clean. I feel like that is totally acceptable. If you're not able to position yourself after you've tried, to ask your client to help you move into a position that's a bit more comfortable. So from here, since I'm on this side, I can go ahead and continue with these areas right here and do it with good comfort here. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go ahead and wipe away. I'm going to do the same thing with this leaf right here, except I don't want to go as dark where there are details because I still want the details to show up through. But I am going to add just a little shade here on these leaves as well. Shading placement is going to be subjective. You can add the shading wherever you see fit as the artist. I don't really feel like there is a right or a wrong, especially when we're practicing. As long as it makes sense, I feel. Same thing over here. And the same thing over here. There we go. And we're just going to finish this last area right here. This last area, I'm just going to use a series of whip motions away from me to apply this area. There you go. Same thing with over here. And then I'm going to just finish these last two here. There we go. I feel like this leaf right here can just use a little bit more shading this way to kind of complete this leaf. Something like that. Now I want to add a generous amount of ointment. Now that, I have to keep in mind this is also a silicone hand, so I want to be gentle when I wipe away because I don't want to cause any damage or pull off any of the skin, making it look like it's not supposed to, essentially. What I'm going to do is just simply apply ointment all of these surrounding areas to remove the splatters, so that way we can see a final view over this. I'm going to go ahead and bring you to a top view now, so that way we can take our final looks. So here we are at a top view, and these are the final results that I got. This is how I would go about tattooing the palm of a hand. You can see that all of the line weights are clean and consistent, even through all the crevices. Where there are crevices, you can see that the line weights look like they fluctuate, but it's just simply the natural motions of skin. If we stretch it correctly, we should be able to apply the line weights true to their integrity throughout the entire design. So there shouldn't really be too much fluctuation if we're technically approaching it correctly. Here are the final results. I just wanted to give you a close-up here so that way you can see what I got. When I stretch it here, you can see that all of the integrity of the lines are there. The shading is nice and clean. The shading was a bit tricky as well, just because you have to kind of push through the textures and feel through the textures. But once you kind of get used to that application, applying it is not so difficult. It's pretty much like any other stippling, but we have to be a little bit more vigorous and a little bit more mindful. Probably even go over it a few more times than we would have on another smoother part of skin. All in all though, these are the results that I got. I'm very happy with them. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to drop it in the comment section down below. I'm going to do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. That'll be it for this one. That's what I have for you today. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I'm going to be bringing more videos like this for you all. I do appreciate your time and I thank you for watching. You have a great day.